And the boys kind of came to me and were like, hey, you interested in like kind of working with us and finding artists and stuff because you seem to be really good at finding them at the ground level. Because I'm like fucking, as I said to you before, I'm watching people flat out, but I'm like, I'm on SoundCloud, bro. Like, so when I go through my binges, and
you're
I'm
really
like,
going that deep into it, man.
I'll sit there and be like, listen to one artist, to another artist, to another artist. I'll spend hours. When I was younger, I literally would have headphones on for hours and hours and hours, just digging, like trying to find gold, right?
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Culture Show. Fucking podcast is now, brother, right?
Let's go, brother.
Don't leave me hanging and shit. All right. Man, I don't even know how to start this. This is completely new to me. Thank you for watching. If you're watching right now, the first ever episode, I'm excited for you guys to be a part of this new journey we're doing. And, having people on at least once a week, once every 2 weeks, picking at their brains, learning the industry, learning things from artists and all of the above. Sheesh, man. Is there anything you want to say yet? Or?
The Culture, bro.
The Culture
Welcome
Show.
to the Culture,
Welcome to
bro.
the Culture Show.
Welcome to the Culture.
Yes, sir. Just quickly, my name is Nate Six. This is my co-host, Donny Dollars. We have another co-host too, Liam B. He's not here at the moment. He's getting tattooed. He'll be here towards the end of the episode. We do have a guest today, a really exciting guest. I just wanted to start with basically just touching on a few things. First being why I decided to start this podcast and kind of take a step away from music a little bit. So essentially I've been chasing music, like sort of that's been my passion, my dream, waking up every day and doing it since I was 13, 14. And it's just gotten to the point now where I've had a few things happen in my life where it's sort of given me a kick in the butt, and I've become big on being able to call it when it's not the time right now to be chasing a specific thing. Also because of the fact I've been doing this since I was so young, went through a bit of a rough childhood and was out in the street young, which is why I started making music. It sort of became my identity. When I was developing a personality and identity, I sort of identified as that. I didn't really identify as just a human. I'm more just identified as an artist. Everything I did in my life was artist driven or the music driven. It was for that factor. It was kind of everything I did was to elevate that. And I went and started seeing a psychologist and whatnot lately, and they sort of said some things to me about personal growth, etc. And that sort of made me think straight away, even though she said personal growth, it made me think like that was to my music career and stuff, right? And when things started sort of crashing because I didn't take care of what I was meant to take care of in terms of my mental health and my health and stuff like that, I sort of realized what she was talking about. You know what I mean? Like,
it's like that's like everything to you. Even when she's talking about your personal health and stuff, you're just thinking about the music. That's kind of like,
I'm like, if I do this, that's going to benefit my career. If I do, you know what I mean? But I wasn't able to hone in and really focus on who I am and what parts of me need that healing. You know what I mean? Because I was too focused on that. It was just tunnel vision, nothing but. You know what I'm saying? So I wrote a little something in case I wasn't able to find the words in my notes just to sort of read, to give you a better sort of explanation than sort of freestyling it. But why did I walk away from music? I've been chasing this goal since I was 14, and there's still nothing I love more to this day than getting up and chasing my dream and my passion. But unfortunately, I'm at a place in my life currently where my health and my mental health needs to come first. From young, I took on the identity of Nate Six, and everything I did was sort of for him and not me personally at all. And I came to realize that lately through a series of pretty bad breakdowns and mental health clauses that I've been trying to fit this character I created for myself. I have no idea who I actually am and what parts of me actually need healing in order for me to be able to continue to put 100% into my craft while still maintaining a healthy mindset and to consistently be able to start looking after myself properly again. Also, as I just mentioned, I've become a big believer in being able to really take a step back and call myself out when things just aren't working at this particular time. And the reason why I decided podcast, out of everything we sort of could have gone after taking a step back from this thing I've been fully driven on for years now, is because I like to talk. I like to talk to people. I like to learn things from other people. I like to...
Oh, you can talk, bro.
I know. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But even experiences, man, you know what I mean? Like all that stuff, I want to grow from that. I feel like I'm going to get to know myself the more conversations I have with people and stuff and whatnot as well. So really excited to bring you guys along with us and stuff. But yeah, man, that's essentially. I just wanted to touch on that for you guys and stuff. But
exciting times, man.
Exciting
New
times.
chapter.
Exciting times.
Let's go.
We podcasters now. I think we should get off that topic and we should bring the guests in. Hey,
let's go, bro.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest today is responsible for a whole lot of wet pussy around Australia. He's a veteran in the nightclub scene and a music industry wizard, successfully playing a huge role alongside superstar careers such as Melbourne, Rockefellers, and Amu the MC. Here to tell us about that and more, it's Danny Grant. Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go. Yeah, Danny, welcome, man. Thank you for coming.
What's happening, boys?
Not a lot, bro. What about you?
Heaps as per usual.
Yeah, beautiful. That's what we like.
Seem like
to
a
hear.
busy guy.
Yeah. Beautiful, man. So I do have some questions written down, has fillers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But man, I don't even know where to start. You just do so much.
Yeah.
You do so much, man. I think the best place to start sort of is where it started for you. And where would you say that was?
To be honest, like when I was like 13 selling ciggies.
Yeah, the hustle.
Yeah, like kind of when I was growing up, sort of not that great. And I had to like fend for myself, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Like my parents were alcoholics and drug addicts and stuff like that. So if I wanted something, I had to figure out a way to get it.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like good ways and bad ways, but it was like washing cars, selling ciggies, all that sort of shit. So really early on, I realized like, hey, it's sort of, I guess what I want and my needs and desires have to be fueled by myself.
Yep.
And I feel like that's where it began. That makes sense.
100%.
It's been an obsession ever since, sort of.
Do you going back to that, like back when you were 13, selling ciggies on the hustle, door knocking and stuff, I'm assuming, and whatnot? Yeah, beautiful. When you started doing that, man, do you remember what kind of was the cause or the drive? Obviously, you realizing, yeah, okay, if I want something, I'm gonna have to go get it myself. Do you remember what that was that originally made you want to push for that and start?
I reckon like a better life.
Yeah,
like,
beautiful.
And sort of like I think a lot of guys that come from, I know you just sort of touched on it before, but from like a rough childhood, I was like, you either go one way or the other.
Yep.
You either like fall into it and do it, or you do the opposite. So for me, it was like pretty early on. I was like, fuck this, I'm sick of this. Yeah, and then the only way for me to get out of that, in my opinion, was to like succeed. That makes sense. So
100%.
I sort of like, and don't get me wrong, like it was not some clear cut thing where I was like some fucking major entrepreneur with no problems. Like I was in trouble with police and I was in and out of doing fucking drugs and shit like that. So it wasn't some clear cut thing. I was like, I would hustle, good and bad, if that makes sense. So
100%.
It wasn't always necessarily the right way to do it, but it was still, eventually I figured it out. Yeah. And it maybe took 7-8 years before I was like, the negative is not working, but the positive is.
Most definitely.
And then I kind of continued to walk that lane, if that makes sense. But it was definitely touch and go at points throughout my fucking when I was younger, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%, man. And do you think it was that sort of that thought and that want for a better life from where you come from, and you see sort of the way your friends are growing up in that scene as well, because they sort of would come from the same areas, I'm assuming, and whatnot.
So when I grew up in a place before, a place called Broadford, which is like a small town. A lot of like, it's kind of famous for bikies, like Hells Angels and shit.
Right.
So anyway, so when I grew up there, it was a lot of like, not fucked up families, but like alcoholics, drug addicts, like marijuana smokers. There was good people there too, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But there was also a lot of like single mums, broken families, single dads, like all that sort of shit. So when I lived there, it was like I was kind of in a weird spot where I did hang around with guys who had like atomic families and they were kind of a bit normal.
Yeah.
So I think that was what motivated me, because I was sort of like, fuck, you know what? I want this.
Yeah.
So, and then it like kind of made that bigger. So during that period of time, I was sort of like doing little bits of hustles here and here, but just to get by, like buy ciggies, buy food, whatever. Like it was nothing major.
For sure.
But when it really escalated was like when I moved. So I got expelled and then I got sent down by my family to live with auntie and uncles.
Yep.
So when I did that, I moved to a joint called Vermont, which is still, it was like a way better area. If that makes sense.
Yep.
And then there was the opposite. So like I was like one of two kids that came from a family that was not atomic, like where their mum and dads were together and rah.
Yeah.
So I was like, I saw that and I was like, fuck, man, this is safe. Like, this feels good, yeah. And so I got to see that. And it was like, if I hadn't have seen that, I don't know if I would have gone the way I did. That makes sense. So I sort of saw that and I was like, cool, that's what I want to do. And that's how I want to be. And then from there, I was like, how do I figure that out? So I've always been really good at like seeing a problem and then figuring out the solution.
Beautiful. Problem solver, more as such. Yeah.
So, and then I was like, and then don't get me wrong, I did it the wrong way. Like, I did it the wrong way all for on and off, like for a couple more years. It wasn't like I just solved it.
Yeah.
And then it was like when I hit about probably 21, 22, where I was like, this is not like the negative's not working. It comes with bad consequence.
Yeah.
And then I was like, if I could use all this energy and shit that I've learned in a positive way, I reckon I could fucking kill it. And then from there, the rest is history, sort of thing. So
beautiful, bro.
Yeah.
That's actually something I wanted to bring up. So we'll touch on it now. Is the fact that you're saying the drive and everything was the better life that you were chasing.
100%, yeah.
Right. I see. Because of course I follow you on Instagram, and I'm always waiting for your fucking funny canteen stories or your funny shit like that, man. But I always, obviously, I see whatever you're doing, man. You're always involving your wonderful kids and your missus in it as well. Do you think that's obviously the thing that sort of makes it so easy for you to grind and do so much, man? Because you have this beautiful family to go home to that you're providing for, and they're right by your side while you're doing this and stuff. You know what I mean?
I think now, I think that when I first started, it was just about having money and things I wanted right now.
Yeah,
that makes sense. So that was why when I was doing dumb shit, it was all like short term gain.
Yeah.
So then when I kind of like got my shit together more, it was more like, okay, cool. How am I going to establish myself to like have this life that I've always wanted, this security life with kids and missus and the atomic fucking family.
Yeah.
How am I going to make sure that my kids don't have the same experiences that I had? So that's when that became my motivator. And then when they came, it just strengthened that.
Yeah.
So I was like, then now for me, it's like legit, bro. I know it's like cliche, but like everything's for them. So I don't give a fuck. Like, I'm happy not to have a shirt on my back. As long as they're sweet, I don't care. Yeah,
beautiful.
and like
So
beautiful. I'm the sort of the driver. I bring everything in, but I'm the last to get the piece of pie. That's bullshit because I eat heaps. But like my daughters get dressed better, they get better opportunities, and then I'm last. Yeah, and like my wants and needs come after.
100%.
It's interesting how the reasons, motivations for the hustle and that drive to want to change your life changes throughout the years.
Yeah, 100%,
you know, I realized this isn't just about me anymore. Like I literally need to provide for somebody else, and it just like pushes them like to the next level.
Agree. Like it's like you got to anything you do. Like if you don't have a motivator, what's the fucking point?
100%.
Exactly.
You got to figure out what that is and then what's moving forward. But another thing for me, which is kind of weird, and I've brought it up a couple of times when I've done things like this, is legacy. Yeah, and so I'm
huge on that. That gave me goosebumps as soon as you said that word, dude. Yeah, 100%.
I always think about myself, like when I'll be like sitting back and I'm like, when I die, I want people to be like, fuck, what a story. Yeah, and so that almost to me is more like I want to make sure my family and shit's all good and like they're living the life that I could only have dreamt of. And I can do whatever I can to make that, and I feel like I can have an impact on that.
Yeah.
But for me, I don't really need much. Like it's sound the weird thing, but I don't even like. I could have a nice car, but my car's not that shit. But it's okay. Yeah, and like everything that comes with like my kids or my missus live in is great. Anything that I have, I don't really give a fuck about it. So I'm pretty low maintenance. So that makes sense. So I'm pretty low maintenance, but it's like that. The motivator for me is like having the craziest story ever. That makes sense. So like when I die, I want people to be like, fuck, that dude, what a life that guy lived. And thus far, I think I've done pretty good.
Man, 100%. That actually brings me on to my next topic perfectly. When I told a few people, a few mutuals we have and stuff like that you were coming on the first episode, one of their biggest points they had on you was everything they've seen you do or sort of have an idea, I want to do this. You've achieved it. You know what I mean? Like I attended the Hello Sunshine Festival, which we'll touch on a bit more in. But I attended that, and I was walking around that with a few of my mates and stuff, and just going through my head, I can't put two and two together that these are all these families and stuff are here, and this one dude. Obviously, you've got a team and whatnot.
Yeah, 100%.
But it started off as this one dude's dream. You know what I mean? And it's crazy to me the story you posted as well. How you guys, obviously, I'll let you tell the story and stuff. But you guys wanted to do it at the Caribbean markets a few years ago or something and had no luck. What was the story with that, man?
So a mate of mine ran a festival and I was like, fuck, this looks like a mad thing to do. So that's basically what it was. So he'd done this thing called Valley Vibes down in Yarra Valley.
Yep.
And I was like, I want to do that. So then I was running clubs and shit at the time, but I'm always like looking to the next step, and that makes sense. So I went there to these guys. I was like, this is a mad site, super nostalgic to me. I want to do something there. And I was like, I must have been 22. Like I was pretty young.
Yeah.
Yep, 22. And then I went down there and they're like, yeah, all right, we'll look at it. But they didn't want to do exactly what I wanted to do. So as soon as they were sort of like, oh, like I kind of came with a plan. And then they were like, we can give you 20% of that plan. I was like, nah, fuck that.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, if this is going to work, it's got to be what I want it to be. So then we did that. And then I went back again. I actually ran a festival there, this food thing I did there, which we did like 40,000 people to.
Wow.
And then over a period of a weekend. And then I went... And then I kind of built up trust from that because it was something that they were willing to let me do because the music thing they were real paranoid about. And then I went back and I pitched it. Well, my mate did. He came back to me during COVID. He's like, do you want to do this thing that we talked about fucking years ago? And I was like, I'm like, yeah, let's have a crack at it like one more time. So we went there and we just basically laid it out. We're like, look, this is what I want to do. This is what we think is going to happen. We still believe in that original dream, but it's got to be ran by us, like by the way we want it to be. So they sort of ticked it off and approved it. And then we went for it. It took us about 18 months to put it together. It was a pretty fucking big show, as you saw.
Shit, man, massive.
Yeah, and then we pulled it off. Like, so it's kind of, that's a weird thing for me is that like what you said before, like I kind of like have an idea, and like I said, I'm really good at seeing a problem and then figuring out how to do it.
Yeah,
so the same thing. It's like I'm really good at having an idea, then working out how to do it. That makes sense. So
100% the execution, because I guess it's really one thing to have the great idea,
Totally.
but it's a whole completely different ballgame to be able to execute said
100%.
idea.
I say I've got
100%.
this like a thing that I say. It's like not a famous saying because I'm not famous, but a saying that I say to my mates. But I'm like, it's all good to have a good idea in the garage, but only like 1% of people will actually have a crack at it. Yeah? So it's like there's fucking many a brilliant app ideas, many a brilliant business ideas getting thrown around in the shed.
Yep.
But they're not being activated. Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
So it's like when someone says, "Oh, this guy copied my idea." It's like, bro, he didn't copy your idea. He did your idea.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
How many times have you sat with your boys or something like that, or you've gone to the shop or something with them, and they see something or they see someone doing something, you're like, oh, we thought of that. They've copied our idea. It's like, no. They actually had it in them to go and execute it 100%. And bring it to life, which is a whole nother thing. But while we're on the Hello Sunshine Festival topic, obviously, I really want to dig in deep. I've listened to a fair few of your podcasts yourself, and the one you did with a bloke from the UK as well that you did.
Frankie Lee,
that was sick too, man. Great podcast.
Cheers.
I really want to dig into the music side of stuff, man. I haven't heard you speak a heap about that.
I haven't. No.
Yeah, I haven't heard you speak a lot about that. I know. For those of you who don't know, Danny runs Empire in...
Did I sold it?
Oh, he sold it.
Yeah.
Previously ran Empire, which was I grew up in the Southeast. I'm a Frankston boy.
Oh, no shit.
And so that's a staple club in the Southeast. Everyone knows about Empire if you're from there. You know what I mean? It's a huge thing. And it didn't take long for me to... Once I officially was sort of... Not officially in the scene, but sort of started knowing people that are actually in the scene and stuff like that, and being at a studio every day and stuff, it really didn't take long until I started hearing the name Danny Grant.
Yeah.
Start going around the studios and going around the shows we're doing and whatnot. You know what I mean? Like, it really didn't take long at all. And so I'm really interested in how that came about, because I know I heard in your previous podcast that you started in the nightclub scene and stuff. So I think we'll dig a bit into that. So how did that start first?
So again, it goes back to that whole like selling ciggy shit. So I was sort of like hanging around clubs, doing whatever, mucking around, doing blah, blah, blah. And then I realized back then, I don't know if they still do it, or I don't think they do, but you could get $3 per head that you bought in.
Right.
So I was like, at the time, I was out all the time, and I fucking just knew everybody because it kind of worked out all right for me. Like, I got expelled, bumped to another school, but where I lived was actually, I got forced to go to a school that was closer to me, but where I actually lived was closer to this football ground, and then
right.
I had to work whatever. So I was like, it's one of those weird things, but where I worked, I didn't work with anyone from school. Where I lived wasn't close that close to my school. So I was like, I had these massive amounts of networks, and I've always really been good at retaining them.
Yep.
So I just I don't know, I wouldn't say I'm a social butterfly. I got a core group of mates, but it's like I constantly, probably twice a week, do I go catch up with people that from my past. Like, I legit just caught up with the dude I went to primary school with Tuesday, right? So I've always been really good at staying in contact with people. So when that came about, I was sort of like, oh yeah, sweet. So at the time, I didn't actually know that what I was doing was that good. So I was like given tickets by these dudes, and I'd sell like 50 to 100 easy because I knew everybody. So everyone, like, what are you doing? What are you doing this weekend? Like, I'm going to fucking TFU. Like, yeah, Matt, I got tickets. Do you want some? Yeah, boom, bang, 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 sell them out. And then I was just like, I used to make $5 a ticket. So I make like $500, right?
Add it all up. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and that was only on long weekends and stuff like that. And I was like, cool. So I didn't really think that it was like something I could turn into a job. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And then one weekend I was sort of like, I'm not gonna do it this time because I'm gonna go away or some shit. And then those guys sort of came back and were like, we'll give you a percentage of the party. And I was like,
wow.
Oh fuck, because I was selling like a fifth of the event without knowing.
And then you went and gave them the opportunity to find out what you were actually bringing in when you didn't bring it in.
So like when I got that reaction, I was sort of like, and it was like a couple of times. That's one of multiple at the same time. Where I was like, had that reaction of like, oh, I'm not going to engage this week. And these dudes like, no, you have to. And I was like, oh.
You realize like how much money you're actually making these guys.
And then I sort of sat down and did the maths. And I was like, okay, fuck, I'm getting $3. They're getting $17, like on top of what I'm getting. I want a piece of that $17.
Yeah.
So then once I kind of figured out my value, I was like, because I did that event and got paid whatever. I remember, it's actually a funny story. You guys will rate it. So it's like one of my first events I did solo. I made $2,000.
What club was it at?
It was at a club called Circus, just down the road from here.
Okay, yep.
So I did this solo event because one of my mates at the time had been running these shows. Like, so this is a little bit after that. Like, this is when I started to take it properly serious.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck, I reckon I can do this. So I did it at this joint called Circus. And after I paid all the DJs and whatnot, I had 2K. And for me, bro, like coming from where I come from, like that was like fucking $1 million bucks.
Massive. That's a fat pocket. Yeah.
And I legit like laid it down and I was like rolling it, taking photos and shit.
As you do, bro.
And I was like, legit, I thought I was never going to have to work again. I was like, fuck. And
Mama, don't worry. Yeah, 100%.
I thought I had it sus. But then from there, I was like, all right, cool. So that was like when I really got addicted. So I was like, had a piece of the pie and taste it of my value. Then I did my own event, made like 2K at the time. And I'm like, fuck, I could live off this.
Yeah.
And then like everything I do, I did it to the extreme. And then next thing you know, I was running clubs all over Victoria, doing shows all over Australia, like fucking managing DJs, blah, blah, blah. So I kind of exploded from that. But I guess the journey from that was like music is always been a passion of mine. One.
Beautiful, yeah.
And then B, culture. I fucking love culture. So
yes,
it's like,
yeah, 100%.
So I've always, even though I'm older, and like you said before, it's not unusual to hear my name in the hip hop stuff.
It's really not at all, yeah.
But it's also not unusual to hear my name in the dance stuff or the hardstyle stuff. It's like, it's been like that because I dip in and out. Like I'm always like around, but it's like I'm obsessed with music culture. I fucking love watching that build up, explosion, being involved in it, being at shows, all that whole bit that comes with it, plus the music. And then that's why I'm always looking for it. So it's like a rush for me.
Yeah.
So that's why I've got my fingers in so many different music genres. It's like, and then because the way it actually works is not much different. So if I'm working with a rapper, a DJ, a house act, a band, the process is the same.
Yeah.
It's like, it doesn't change when you're like managing an artist or whatever, but the cultures do. So they change.
Of course,
so in a sense, I'm fucking like I'm not going to say culture vulture because I don't copy it, but it's like I'm a culture leech. Yeah. I love being involved.
Very cultured. Yeah, 100%.
And my favorite part is, and I've said this before to dudes, I'm like, my favorite part is like the start. So it's like when you got these little guys and like no one can do a show because there's not enough artists. You pull it together, you sort of help people. Everyone's fucking passionate. They're looking after each other, playing for nothing. The photographers are doing it for nothing. The videographers.
It's amazing, man.
That's where you get the best people.
It really is. I've met some of my best friends that I'll recall my best friends for life through this music scene and through putting on shows together. It's genuinely one of the. It's a really connecting experience for one, you know what I mean? And it's, as you were talking about before, networks. Like that's probably one of the biggest where I've got most of my network from is from the industry and from being in the room and having that conversation, you know, whether I'm a rapper, you know what I mean? But being in a studio and then you have conversations with whoever's in there, whether they be a pop star or this or that, you know what I mean? It's as you were saying, I just wanted to touch on that. Network is huge. Like it's your net worth, you know what I mean? Your network is your net worth.
And I like when you hear you say that, not that I've ever heard anyone say that before, but it's like, I'm happy that you said that. Yeah, and like people like to hear my name in different places is good because I try and do that.
Yeah.
And so that's not something that I've really been told before, but I'm always like, I'm everywhere, bro. Like that's the thing.
It's almost inspiring.
And I try to be.
Yeah, no, it's 100% true because it's almost inspiring because it's as when I say obviously I didn't create the saying at all, but when you say your network is your net worth, it's very, very true. And when it comes to the extent of your name always being in the room or coming up in conversation, because half the time with networking, I found it's just a matter of showing your face and having that conversation.
That's 100%.
But now you've put it to a point to where your face, you don't need to show your face to be able to start that conversation anymore. It's already there. Do you know what I mean? When did you sort of realize that sort of started becoming a thing and you're like, okay, I'm actually having as much success in the industry with these artists, no matter what genre, that I am, the same amount of success as I am with the clubbing and as I was with bringing people into the clubs, etc.
They were kind of hand in hand. Like this is kind of a weird stuff because I've not really thought or spoke about it before, but it's kind of cool to reflect, I guess. But for me, I was running the clubs, which was obviously lucky, right?
Yeah.
So then what I did was pretty early on, which is like no one that I know of has even still done this, but I was like, okay, if there's a community here, there's got to be one in Sydney.
Yeah.
There's got to be one in Brisbane. There's got to be one in New Zealand. So I'd be online, like looking up clubs, checking it out, trying to find it, like stalking. Yeah. And adding the dude, yep, sweet, mad, hit him up. Hey, bro, I'm from Melbourne. Is there any synergies here? Could we do some shit? And then they wouldn't reply, whatever. So then I was like, fuck it, I'm going to fly there. So I literally flew to like Sydney, Gold Coast. And I was just like, hey, bro, can I catch up with you? And they'd be like, oh, okay, what for? I'm like, just want you to know who I am and I want to know who you are.
Showing the face and having the conversation.
So this is early days, like, and before even I knew about this networking shit and this hustle fucking life, yeah. And like, I was doing this just off my back.
Yeah.
And then I met up with them and then still now, bro, like that's the guys that I did that with 14 years ago. I'm doing a deal at the moment with Milky Lane with my product, which is like this big like hip hop burger shop in all over Australia but Melbourne.
Yeah.
But the guy that I originally went and met with, I'm doing business with him still. Yeah. And like, and the reason why is that I'd be like, cool. And I guess I back myself as like a human. So I like meet up with him, cool, catch up, blah, blah, talk shop, talk shit, whatever. And then kind of like, I don't want anything from you. I just wanted to meet you.
Yep. Yep.
And then, but when the time comes, like we'll do something if it makes sense. So you know what I do now. I know what you do now. So we can rely on each other. Yeah. And like,
there's the network paid.
Yeah. Sort of, and then I'd kind of go back, and then over time, someone would be like, hey bro, do you know anyone that can do this? You're like, yeah, of course. Like, yeah, I help them out. And then like vice versa, like, bro, I'm trying to break this artist in Sydney. Do you, like, what's a good venue to do? Like, even an explanation of that today is a chick called Nature, DJ Nature. She was based in Auckland. So I went over there and met her when I was in when I did the Melbourne tour, the Brotherhood tour in Auckland.
Yep.
So then now the guys that I work with, Rockefellers, who are like these EDM dudes.
I love them, bro. They're great. Yeah. Well, the greatest dudes ever. Yeah.
And then so I'm with them, and I'm like, cool. So we're starting to break New Zealand. So it's like we're doing a lot of shit in Hamilton, and we've done a couple of festivals and stuff over there. So then what do? I hit up all the network that I've used in over time, and I'm like, hey bro, do you know anyone in Auckland who does EDM stuff? Can you connect me? And then and then I'll be like, do you know anyone in Queenstown? Do you know whatever? So I've got this giant fucking list, black book of like all these people from Auckland, all different scenes. But I hit them up and I'm asking for a favor. But the kind of game to that is that when they do the same, I've got to do it back.
100%.
But the club stuff. So when I was doing the club stuff, why I got real lucky is that I was kind of like working at a place where I was on like a wage in a sense, but I was doing the booking. So I was an entertainment manager.
Yep.
And I would bring down all these artists. They were like up and coming. They weren't blown up yet. So I'd bring all these artists down and I'd be like, oh, cool, look, I can give you $500. Come down, perform for half an hour, whatever. But really what it was for me to meet them. That makes sense. So guys like, I hope you guys here know these guys, but like Flume, I don't know if you heard of them.
Of course,
People Dark, What's So Not, all those boys, like I met by booking them.
Yeah.
But these dudes, when I paid them, they were $300 because that's how early stages they were. That makes sense. So by the time they blew up, like that was years later, but I knew them from when they were young, like Peking Duck, for example. I remember bringing them down. It was like, I think it was fucking $500 fee, and then 2 nights of con. But they were like in a motorhead home, and they did 3 shows. Yeah.
Wow.
And then
imagine the rate for Peking Duck to do that these days.
Well, they're worth about between 150 to 200 grand. So
wow. Yeah.
And I had no part in their success at all, but it was like I knew those guys because I was a part of that culture, and I
just goes to show the network again. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And there's guys that I've also brought over that did nothing. Yeah. Like they never blew up and now work in real estate or do whatever. So it's like it goes vice versa. But I feel like no one was like proactively thinking like I was at that point. So everyone was sort of like, yeah, cool, I'm making money from my show. Mint, that's whatever. And whereas I was always like, okay, how do I make more opportunity? How do I make more opportunity for me? Or how do I make more opportunity for the artists I'm working with? Or how do I make more opportunity for my team? And then the way I thought that was just like, I just need to get my fucking name in people's mouths. Yeah. So it's like, and that's the thing I think about, like when I'm in the studio or do whatever, I come in and people see me as an opportunist. Yeah. Like, and I get a lot of people hit me up all the time because they want to catch up because they know that my black book is fucking heavy. Yeah. Sometimes if you get a good editor, you don't even hear it.
Yeah.
I've had ones where there's like people are going for the toilets or we stopped, they've been technical. And then I've had an editor do it and I can't even hear it where they've done it.
Damn.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. If you sort of talk about the same project, they normally just chat. Yeah. And like they'll stop at like and then go again.
Yeah. And so you're able to swivel that though when you need to? Cool. All right. Beautiful.
Yeah, so like what I was saying was like, so like it might seem erratic, but like where I was sitting at was like, if I'm sitting in a room with people and they know what I'm about, what I do, who I know, it's like if they come up with something in their brain, they're sort of like, okay, cool, fuck, we need to break into Sydney, for argument's sake, or we need someone who has a connect to a label, or we know someone that needs to know whatever, like whatever it happens to be. If they know that I can facilitate that, I would automatically get that opportunity.
Yeah.
So it's like they're sitting there and they go, we come up with this idea, like we said before, how are we going to facilitate this idea? Danny, we'll fucking talk to Danny because Danny will know someone that does that. So you've got to know my name because I've done whatever I can to make sure that you do know it. And then B, second to that, it's like you now know what I'm capable of or what I've done because not necessarily I tell you, people will tell you. Yeah,
100%. Yeah,
that's a lot more. Sorry, that's a lot more powerful as well. When other people,
word of mouth
from other people, how good this guy is. It's a lot better than hearing from the guy himself.
100%. Because I mean, I guess sometimes, not all the time, obviously, but sometimes when I guess if you're the guy talking about how good he is, and I can do, you just sort of
people don't believe you.
You're just sort of sitting there telling the person what you can do for them instead of it's a real thing and there's nothing wrong with it. But it's as Donny was saying, it's a lot more powerful if it's word of mouth. If you're not even in that room and there's people saying hit up Danny, Danny's going to be able to sort that for you. Man, do you know what I mean? As you said, heavy black book. That's something that's, and I don't think, like, to be honest with you, bro, there's not really not to move off topic at all, but there's not really a another Danny Grant in Australia. You know what I mean? From what I know, there's no one else's name that I'm hearing.
Yeah, that's because we're in Melbourne.
That's very true.
Yeah,
Actually, good point. Very good point. Very valid point. I guess running off that, man, is I'm really interested in the story of, obviously you started young and you started bringing in people to these clubs and getting the sort of cut from that, etc. When you sort of started doing that, when did it sort of hit to the point where you were like, okay, I want to start working with artists. I want to build artist careers. I want to do this. I want to do that.
It's kind of weird, because like early, like I was like on it straight away, but I kind of fell into it. So the way it worked for me, which is kind of very short, I'll try to keep it as short as I can. I started up a company called Loud Entertainment. So this is after all that stuff I was talking about before.
What entertainment, sorry?
It's called Loud Entertainment.
Loud Entertainment, yep.
And Loud Entertainment is like, it's, if you listen to like Melbourne sound or like kind of heavy dance back in 10, 15 years ago, you know it. Like
he'd know it, yeah.
So there was a company called Loud and Lab. So we were the two competitors. We didn't really get along, whatever.
Yeah.
And so what happened was, again, like when I was doing my events, I was like, cool. So I used to find new talent because they used to cock block you. So like when you were trying to do what I was doing, like run clubs and shit.
Yeah.
The easiest way to like cut your back down from the feet was to not allow you to have artists. So I would be like, cool, I got this club, I got this gig, I want to do the show. And then I'll be like, I want to get these big artists, like I want to book them. So I'd go to the booking agencies, and what would happen is my competing promoters would be like, no, don't give it to him, because they don't want me to compete, right?
Of course, yeah.
And then, so they would cut my legs from underneath my feet. So then what I had to do was I had to develop my own. Yeah, and so from that way I was like, cool. So I had to like kind of like, I call them like misfits. So they were kind of like playing for me. And I'd be like, cool, you're going to make your own songs. You got to have something about you. So already from there, accidentally, I was identifying talent because I was forced to.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So then I sort of built these guys up within my own community. So I was like, cool, these are their demos. This is doing whatever. So I started promoting people accidentally to help my clubs. And then, so when they all went boom, blew up, I did the same thing. So I was like this, cool. Now you boys play for me. Yeah, and then I'm like, let me take care of your bookings. I'll manage whatever. But it was actually, the reason why I was doing it was because I needed control of what I built, and that makes sense. So I was
that was the easiest.
Yeah, so I was, and I was smart. So like the other guys, for argument's sake, our competitors, they wouldn't allow their guys to play anywhere.
Right.
So the difference between me was I did, but I'm the agent, so I got to stipulate where they played. Yeah, and like, and from there, and but I was like, hey, from there, and what I was appealing was that I wasn't like stopping opportunity. I was doing the opposite. So I was like, hey, like you play for me, I'll go get you 7 more gigs. There's all these other joints. But what I was doing kind of in the background was I was never allowing my whole collective to play on one lineup. So everyone would come to me and I'd be like, yeah, you can have 2. So then I'd go boom, boom. And then the only time they ever played together was when there was my events. That makes sense.
Yep. Yeah.
So I did that early on, and that was like before I even knew what booking agency was or management was. So I was sort of doing that to help my brand grow, and I was like building them because I needed them to propagate my brand, if that makes sense. And then I was like, fuck, all right, I'm managing artists. Like that was a point when I was thinking, and I was really, really good at like figuring out how to like attach community to culture and create like something around an artist.
Yep.
And I had like fucking 6 of them, man. I had some real big ones. Like there was guys like, you guys would be too young, as bad as that sounds, but like Stevie Mink, Mike Metro, Heath Renata, even we worked with like a lot of guys like Joel Fletcher, Will Sparks, all those things. We really, I had like, at the time that I was around, there was probably 8 big guys and I had 6 of them.
Yep.
And I built them. And to the point, which is kind of like a crazy story, but I remember one time there was another agency that was doing the same shit. So they just kept rising the prices and I was like, fuck you. So I literally just made my own artist. Yeah. And so I just found these 2 guys and I was like, cool. I think there was 3 actually. I found 3 and I found something that I thought was different. I like created like a fake buzz, like a fake stir.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden this artist was big and I just kept him. Yeah. And like,
wow,
so
man,
I was doing that shit early on and then I stopped for ages. So I actually went to this point where I was like, I kind of got burnt in a sense. Like effectively I had all these artists, probably had like 7 or 8 of them. I was about to join up with a company called Lucky, which is arguably the biggest entertainment company.
Yeah, Lucky. Shout out Lucky for sure. Yeah.
And myself and the boss of it, we were going to combine and start this agency called Say What Agency. And then I got cold feet last minute because he sort of had a couple of artists he wanted to put on. But at the time, I was all like, fuck, my guys are the coolest motherfuckers in the world.
Yeah.
Like, these guys are a bit too commercial. Fuck that, rah. And then I went to another agency that I thought could help my boys because they were bigger. Like, they were a bigger, more established agency at the time. So I was like, okay, I'm going to try to like take the leap for them, not for me.
Yep. Take
the leap and hopefully we can go interstate and overseas and break these things. So kind of got like a bit of cheese and took the bait sort of thing. And when I went there, this didn't turn out the way I wanted to. So like what ended up happening was they gave me like an offsider, and that offsider ended up taking over my guys. It was a bit dodgy, and then I left, and some of the boys left with me. But then the music style that I'd spent so much time and energy on at the start, this is the first one, so I've been involved in multiple different music blow-ups. Was I legitimately at that time thought that we were going to be fucking the biggest thing in the whole entire world. And I put all my time and energy into it, kind of like what you were talking about before, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then I was all I gave a fuck about. And then what happened was the sound started to fizzle. And when that happened, I was like, fuck. Yeah. And then I got like kind of shafted here, ripped off here, the bad relationship, this happened, couldn't give guys what I wanted. And it was just like all kind of started to crumble down. And I was like, my whole world at that time from whatever it was, 3-4 year gap was like that, if that makes sense. So then I was like, burnt out by it. So I was like, fuck, you know what?
Yeah, man.
I don't know if I want to do this again. And then I came back and did House, which is where I met all those other guys like Flume, Peking Duck, What's So Not. Ran a club called Tramp in the city, which is pretty fucking famous club.
Oh, yeah. Massive. Yeah.
And it was called Fake Tits. It was the Friday I did.
Beautiful.
And I was like, you know what? I like house music. So now I'm going to move off and I'm going to do house music. So I worked in that space, and I worked with some really big guys, and we helped develop dudes. Even guys currently at the moment that used to play for us were like, again, Flume, What's So Not, Peking Duck, Dom Dollar, Benson, Torrent Foot, like all basically the biggest house artists from Australia now played with us 10 years ago. And we created like a really good community and culture for that. That kind of allowed them to be a lot more free flowing with what was commercially acceptable. And we did that. And I then started up a label at that time because I was like, you know what? Fuck management. I'm going to work on a label.
Yep.
I did the label for a bit, and I was signing artists and doing some shit like that. And we were doing really successful. We had some really fucking big names on the label.
What was the label called?
It's called Say What Records.
Say What Records.
Yeah. So when I left the Say What agency, I ended up turning the same brand I'd made
into the record label. Yeah, beautiful.
And then, like everything with music, bro, myself and the partners I was with were like super passionate. Yep. And then I had sort of one idea, which is probably what I was 4 years before. So they had this like music genre that they were like, it was called Australian Bass House, I think, or something like that. And these guys still play it, they still do well with it, whatever. And then I was like, no, I want to be like more open-minded. Like I wanted to take artists from all different genres, and our label is like it's an everything sort of thing. Because at the time there was guys I was looking up to in America that were doing that, and they were DJs too. And they were sort of like, nah, look, we want to stick to this niche. And we want to continue to use this as like a vehicle to Paris. Couldn't agree, broke up. But me and these dudes were like besties. And then when it broke up, it wasn't like, not that anything was like swung out or anything like that, but it was like we didn't really talk after that. And then after that, I was real burnt. So I was like, I've gone from like my dream being crushed because the music style died off, and then the guys who come up after, which is like your Wills and Joels and shit. Yeah, I had a little bit to do with especially Joel, but then the guys who grabbed them who didn't support us were the ones that made all the money from it. So I was bitter about it. And then I did the house stuff, and I had a breakup from these good friends. So I was like, fuck music, if that makes sense. So I was like, and I just became a bit bitter and to be honest, like a bit of a shit cunt, like a shit person. So I was like, when people were succeeding, I'd be one of those dudes, which I'm totally not now, but I'd be like, fuck that successful dude or this, that, whatever. Yeah. And I went through a period of that for like a year, which kind of sucks because I burnt some good relationships in the midst because I was just like, I'm just going to be a promoter. I'm going to be the best at what I do. Yeah. And I'm going to be a fucking piece of shit, basically. Yeah. And so I did that for a bit, and then I had this new idea where I was going to like move off and become corporate. Fuck if I know why, because as soon as I did it, I regretted it. So I went and did like a bunch of food festivals and shit like that. And then I had that burning desire still. Yeah. And I had that desire where I was like, you know what? I'm still listening to music. I still go to shows flat out. I still run shows, but I love this. Like, this is what gets me up in the morning. And all this other shit is like, I guess the best way to explain it was I was chasing money and I was not happy. Yeah. So I actually ended up having a fucking mental breakdown. Where I was like proper depressed and did whatever. I had to go through this process to get like counseling and shit, and I kind of came through it. And what I learned during that period was the two things was, one was I was chasing success because I thought it would make my childhood better. If that makes sense. Like I would kind of overcome my childhood trauma because I was successful.
I know exactly what you're saying, because it's sort of also on that thing too, is you see the things that sort of made your childhood traumatic and stuff, and obviously your family go through those things as well because it's sort of generational, and that's why we kind of grew up with it, right?
Totally.
So when it comes to sort of chasing money because you think it's going to make better and your childhood trauma is better, and that's what's going to make you feel better. I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but when I kind of have the same thought, and where that stems from, I've figured out for me personally, is obviously it's not just me. I was brought up in this environment, and that's kind of led me to the headspace I'm in, and what not fully the reasoning, but led me to sort of where I'm at with that headspace, right? And I realized that when I became I've sort of fell into the same thing recently, you know, with fuck everyone. I'm just going to put all my energy on this, fuck the music, burnt a lot of bridges and stuff like that. And then sort of came to a point where I was like, I'm chasing this money and I'm doing this because I think it's going to
make everything else better.
Make my family better, make like my family for generations to come better, not just the ones now and stuff like that. It's just make my bloodline better. So there's no one else born into this from my family, you know. That's kind of where that stemmed from. And then I realized that's not making me happy.
And that's where I got. So I kind of got to what my goal was. Like that's why I was like, I want to have this, and this. And when I'm there, I'm going to be happy. Yeah. And then I did it and I wasn't fucking happy. Yeah.
It's my biggest fear, bro, to be. It's really weird hearing you say that because you hear it all the time. Like once you get this, you're not happy, or, you know, once you get to the top, that doesn't make you happy if you don't sort the problems up here and stuff like that. But you don't believe it. You're like, fuck off. It's easy for you to say that in a Lamborghini while I'm on a bus. You know what I mean? But then I mean, you're hearing it too much for it to not be true. You know what I mean?
So I never like really heard that or like reflected on it, but it was like it happened to me. Yeah. And so I was like, had this job, getting paid well. It was like worth a lot. Thought it was at the time. Did all this shit, had all these business successes, and then I was like, this sort of period of 2-3 years, and by then I'd sort of, the anger had dissipated from music and shit. Like I realized that I was just sour because, to be honest, I was too early. That makes sense.
Yep.
And that's cool because it's like, again, talk about legacy. Like all those stories I'm involved in because I was there at the start. Yeah, and I pioneered it.
100%.
And now I'm fucking super proud of that and happy that I did. To be honest, I don't think I could have managed to blow up from all these dudes. So things come at good times. If that makes sense. And then I had that breakdown, and then I kind of came back, and I'm like, fuck this. I'm not a corporate. Yeah, and like I'm a creative fucking weirdo, realistically.
Yeah.
Who loves music, and I'm like, you know what? I just want to be happy. So I kind of stopped all that, sold out, did whatever, and then I went really threw myself back into music. And strangely enough, bro, that was the most successful years I ever had in music.
When would you say, how long ago was that when you sort of came back?
4 or 5 years ago. And that's when I started taking on, I took on Melbourne again. Yep. I started taking on artists again. Yep. I started working A&R for labels again. I started running bigger and better shows, but really concentrating on like what I liked and different genres. And I was like hopping. So I was doing like psytrance to house music to fucking international techno acts to super, super cheesy regional clubs.
Just taking anything, eh?
Well, if I liked it, it was all good. Yeah. Like, so I was like, cool. And I've always been really had like a vast taste on music. And then for artists and stuff, I don't know, I feel like at that point, that mental breakdown was like a big part of my life. I needed it. Because once I did that, I was like, cool. Like what you said before, it's like legit what you were saying. I was like, oh yeah, I've been there. Yeah. It's happy you're there. Yeah. You're there now rather than when I was 30. Yeah. Anyway. And then I came back. I was like, fuck, you know what? I really regret being bitter and angry to those dudes because I fucking love those dudes. Yeah.
Yeah,
like,
man.
And I love their journey and I'm proud of them, but I can't really repair it now because I was a dickhead.
100%.
And then second to that, it's like I was like, you know, I love music and I like working for artists, not because I want to become a millionaire from it, because I generally want to see them do better. Yeah. And so almost like that kind of like realization and what happened there was so pivotal for me because it became a part of me being like, I do things for pure intentions now. And then that's why, like, even when people hit me up, like, I'm always like, I always talk to them, always answer them. But a lot of people do ask me to work with them or manage them. But it's like, for me, I'm like, bro, I've got to be 100% in it or I'm not in it at all. Yeah. Like, that's the thing for me. It's like, because I'm that's just the way I am now. Because it's got to be complete pure intentions. Or I've got to be, it's got to be like, I've looked in and I'm like, I think I can help this person.
There's something special here or something like that. What would you say is the for artists at home? What would you say is the what's the right word for it? What would you say is the right recipe for in an artist for Danny Grant to want to work with them? Sorry, for Danny Grant to want to work with that artist or.
For me, it's like one thing I want to say is like, even though it's weird because like my success to artists, like you guys talk to me or whatever, and other people talk to me, I've had a lot of artists that have got to that sort of 5 to 10K mark per show, which a lot of people would be like, that's super successful. For me, I feel like I've never blown a one up proper. That makes sense. So it's weird because like you get these guys like, I've had fucking 10 of those dudes, like, which are like that middle tier, good streams, do whatever, blah, blah, blah. But I'm still chasing that. I'm still chasing that like superstar. Like that international superstar. And I believe some of the guys I work with could be that person. But again, it's like they've got to want it for me to be able to make it happen, if that makes sense.
100%. It's a two-way street for sure.
100% it's two-way street. And again, man, like even it's like kind of off topic, but I'll wind back to it. But I've met dudes who I think are the most talented people I've ever met in my whole entire life. Some of the best artists ever you've never heard of. And the reason why you've never heard of them is that they are completely unmanageable. So you can't work with them because they're erratic and they're fucking brilliant, but they're not manageable. That makes sense.
What does that mean when you say not manageable?
So there's guys out there that are like, they don't want to listen to you. So it's like, what's the point of coming to someone like myself with the giant black book that knows and has done this before 10 times?
You're not going to listen to the tactics.
You don't want to hear it. And all artists to an extent don't want to, because that's what an artist is, right?
Yeah. It's a lot of pride and ego involved too.
It has to be. Like, that's the thing. But at the same time, it's like these same guys, it's like they just don't want to listen so much. There's no point working with them. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a point, I've been with guys for periods of time, for a long time, and it's taken me a year or two to figure that out.
Yeah.
And then there's been times where you got to build the trust up. Like Melbourne's a good example. Like when I first started working with him, it was more about him kind of using me as a lackey in a sense, because he didn't have trust, and we had to build it and build it and build it. And I had to let him make the mistakes that I knew that were probably going to be ones. And then he come back, and then one day after like a year and a half or 2 years, I was like, bro, let me have a go this time. And he was like,
give me the controller.
Yeah, and then he gave me the controller, and then he was like, oh, that worked.
Yeah.
Oh, that worked. And then we built this trust where now it's like, everything is like, what do you think, man? Yeah, like, so it's a relationship.
Beautiful.
Going back to what you said, because I really fucking veered off there.
Yep.
But what I'm looking for is like, it's a weird thing to say. It's a weird thing to say, but it's like, I'm looking for something different that stands out. Yeah. And it's like one of those things, it's not necessarily like how you look or how you whatever. It's like, I'll see someone, and like, I'm using Melbourne as an example because obviously I'm guessing a lot of this will be like hip hop culture based. I look at it and I'm like, look at him, and when I first saw him, and I was like, fuck, wow, I've never seen anything like this before. Because he was like around years ago, right?
That's
like,
actually what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
What period did you actually start managing Melbourne?
Because this is the weird thing that artists will never understand. You're getting watched, and like, so it's like, for me, I work with these dudes, right? And I watch everybody. Yeah. So it's like, even still to this day, bro, I'm watching fucking everybody. Like, it's like, something comes out, it might not be everything they put out, but I'll like check it. And if I like it, then I'll check the next thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, then I'll check the next thing. So it's like, and so with Melbourne was that. Like, I was watching him for a good year and a half before I even contacted him. So I was like watching, I was like, that's cool. And it's funny because I was actually watching his brother originally. So
is that
Ryan King?
Ryan King,
so I rated him too. Love that guy.
Shout out Ryan, by the way, 100%. Yeah.
But I was like, watching him, and then I sort of saw him in a clip, and then I saw another one, and then I saw some other stuff pop off, and I was like, fuck, this guy, I reckon this guy's got something. And then I was like, I really like the way he looks. And then I sort of, after a long time, I hit him up cold, and I was like, hey, bro, like, I've been watching what you're doing. Can we catch up? Yeah, and he just doesn't even know who I am. And then and that's like, I feel like a lot of the time that happens.
Yeah.
And then one of the things I will say, hopefully a lot of artists do listen to this, but I've never ever had an artist approach me and then I've gone, yeah, I'm going to work with you. Never. Ever.
Yeah, of course.
So for me, it's more that I'm watching.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, hey man, what are you up to? Can I help you out? This is how it always starts. It's almost like a fucking courting process, right?
Yeah.
And I've got, even currently now, I've got 4 or 5 artists that I do this with, right? And then I go, oh, what are you looking at doing? Oh, you want to work with that label? I'm like, oh, maybe I can send some stuff over and see if I can help you out. Yeah. And what I'm actually doing is I'm courting you to see if you're manageable, if you listen, if you're willing to work, what your work ethic's like, what your fucking home life's like. Yeah. I'm watching you, so I'm helping you to see how you react. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
it's kind of like, creepy, but it's kind of,
it's kind of poking the bear to sort of see what kind of,
or even if I
happens,
do help you, how do you react back to me?
Yeah.
So if I go, yeah, I'll help you, I'll put you in contact with this guy. If you don't come back and say thank you, why am I going to work with you again?
Yeah, or if you're really bad, cheers, bro. You know,
something
like,
or it's like you don't appreciate the opportunity, or even how when we talk and I say, can we look at doing this, and how you react to it. It's like there's a whole thing, and it's like there's no real recipe to it.
Yeah,
it's more of a feel. If that makes sense. So,
definitely.
And then I start working with someone. I'm like, I really, really like this guy. But again, most of the time, as bad as it is, it dies out from work effort. So it's like there's heaps of people that I'm watching right now who I think are fucking amazing in every single scene that I work in. And then the biggest thing that why I don't pick them up or don't help them is that they don't work. They don't have a work effort.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'll go, yeah, cool. Like, all right, well, send me a demo. And then they don't. Or I'm like, oh, I love that song you did on Thingy. Can you like record it properly? And I can help you if you want. I'll put you in contact with the studio and rah, and they don't chase it up. Yeah, and then I'm like, hey man, can you send me this thing? Because I want to send it over to this thing, and they don't.
Yeah.
So it's like that to me is like, then I'm like, all of a sudden, I'm like, I don't know if I can get this person to work hard enough to be able to do it. So
because I mean, it's a really big saying, man, and I heard it from the moment I sort of started pursuing an artist dream is you gotta want it. You know what I mean?
100%.
Because if you don't want it, there's a million other cats out there that do want it, and they'll take your spot in a heartbeat.
There's a million people out there with more talent than the biggest artists in the world.
Yeah, 100%. But it's funny that you say that because of course there's a million people out there with more talent than the biggest artists in the world, but there's not a million people out there that's gonna work harder.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And hard work beats talent when talent fails.
And you get guys, bro. You get guys that are special. Like Amal and fucking Ronnie, like those dudes are special. Right?
Very special dudes.
And it's like one of those things with those boys is that you also got this challenge where it's like they got to live their life.
Yeah.
Because like there's a big difference between being able to do it full time forever and support your family to actually living a good life. And I don't want to be in their heads being like, oh, bro, like quit all your jobs, do this, do that. Don't fucking feed your family because you're going to blow up, because I don't know that.
Yeah.
That's a lie. Like, all I can do is say I can help you and support you and put you in good opportunities and put you in good, but you've got to perform. You've got to make the opportunity.
They've still got to take that risk.
I can't make the opportunity for you. All I can do is bring you a chance, an opportunity. You've got to then do what you can with it.
It's sort of what they do with the opportunity provided, I guess. I also found it very interesting. I want to take it back a little bit to where you said how you haven't, out of all artists that have messaged you to say to you, you know, I want to work with you, help me with this, and you haven't really worked with one full time that's cold messaged you.
Yeah.
It's really interesting to say that, because artists, your time is coming. Like that's said that a lot. You've just made it a point where people like yourself in the industry, artists, you're being watched. You know what I mean?
Another thing to say is that I've had guys cold message me, and then I've worked with them a year later.
There you go. You know what I mean?
Because it's not to say you shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
But then I'll watch them. Yeah, and so because they've hit me up, I'm like, oh, okay, and then I'll check them out. If I do have an inkling where I like them, I'll continue to watch them, and then I'll get to a point where I'm like, I reckon they're ready.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I've been knocked back. Yeah. Like where I've gone back and gone, hey man, like what's your plans at the moment? What are you thinking? And like, oh, we've done this. So I miss them too. So there's shots I've missed because I have held off too long before. Lots of times, like not just a little bit, heaps, but yeah.
Yeah, most definitely, man. So did you have something?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, I've heard once, like, the best way to, if you're looking for a manager, if you're looking for a label, if you're looking for someone that's gonna help you get your music out there, the best thing to do is just to work on your own, like you've got a manager or like you've got a label. You know what I mean? Because when they see you putting in that work, they're immediately like, okay, this guy works hard. If I give him the direction and get him working in the right direction.
That's exactly right. It's like so if you're like driving a car, right, and then all I want to do is touch the steering wheel. Yeah, like, or I want to give you the directions. Like, I can't make you fucking drive the car, but I can give you the directions. Yeah, and so that's the same thing. It's like if someone's like here and there and everywhere, and I see a lot, man. There's like a lot of artists that I think are fucking awesome, and they just can't get any form of consistency. So for me, I look at that and go, that's too hard basket. Like if I say to him, I need you to be in Sydney at this time to do Triple J Bars of Steel, is he gonna rock up? Yeah, like, and then what happens to me? It burns my relationship, and I fuck that up. So it's like I've got to risk. I've got to put as much risk in the basket as they do, because I don't want to burn my book, because and it happens because artists do that. Like that's what artists do. Yeah,
like, artists are flaky. They can be. Yeah, most definitely.
It just is what it is. Like it's a certain type of personality that creates that kind of fucking music and that kind of level of creativity. I've never met one that's not like that. Yeah, like there's a scale of it. There's a scale of it. There's a scale of good to bad, but there's no like. They were all on that scale.
Yeah. We're somewhere there and everything. Yeah.
And you get 100%. Guys that are like get better, they can train themselves to whatever, and then there's guys that are just impossible to do it. And then there's guys that are like in and out, like or girls I should say too, because I work with girls, but it's like every single one's on that scale.
Yeah.
So it's about where do they lay in that scale, and can they be pulled back to a 2 rather than just sitting at a 10 all the time?
Yeah, right. Or is it worth bringing that scale down, or like are they going to be able to do it before they kind of ruin it for themselves?
Another big one, which will be fucking obvious, but use drugs. So creativity and drugs go hand in hand. And it's like, that's the other one, is like most of the time it's like, how fucked are they on drugs? Can you pull them back?
Can they keep it under control?
Can they keep it under control enough to like not fuck up what you're trying to create?
True. Yeah, most definitely. And I don't know, it's really, I'm glad that our scene's there, do you know what I mean? Especially being very self-aware of the drug use and stuff, especially the managers and et cetera, because it's like, I don't know, man, you hear a lot of stories in America of these managers and label managers and stuff feeding and supplying the drugs that the artist is working for, because they know they're not going to rock up and be able to go on stage if they don't have it. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that and whatnot. But just quickly, man, we've got about 15 minutes left. So while we still can, I want to touch on the alcohol side of things, man, because that's become a huge thing that you've also become known for as well. And I'd love to get some stuff on that. So you started off with the wet pussy shot, right? Which for those who don't know, wet pussy shot is I don't know if the right word is a fermented. It was a fermented shot made before.
It's like we used to make it in like big giant tubs at clubs, right? So this is how it all ties back. Like funnily enough, this is powered by music too. Yeah. But it's like we used to make these giant tubs of wet pussy shots, and it's been like that for 20 years. And the reason why we used to do it was cheap. So we used to go like back in the day, it was like fucking 10 bottles of cranberry, 1 bottle of vodka, peach, just enough so it could taste alcoholic, and we'd sell for $5. So it was like a way we could be like $5 shots on special, but we made it in these giant tubs. Every club in Australia did this.
I remember it being a thing for a while before the actual bottles come out. So that's what I was sort of trying to let the audience know is so
it's actually peach, cranberry, vodka, lime. That's what's
peach, cranberry, vodka. There we go. Yeah. Perfect. And so you guys were sort of, as you were saying, you guys were selling these at clubs all around Australia.
Like basically everyone was making it themselves.
Yeah.
So like at my club, I used to have someone come in beforehand and they would make the tubs of wet pussy.
Ah, right.
And then they would bottle them up, we'd chuck them in the fridge, we'd drink them. So like long story short, when COVID hit, one of my business partners, it was sort of his brainchild. He's like, fuck, if I can trademark the name, do all this shit, we could sell it. And then he kind of benched it because he couldn't get it to work creatively, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then he came back to us during COVID and he was like, wanted to start up an alcohol product because I was like, look, I think I want to sell something in case COVID continues, which it fucking did for 2 years. But I was like, I want to be able to sell stuff in bottle shops on top of clubs. And then he was like, what about this? And I was like, fucking let's do it. So we created the brand around it and did everything around that. And then redefined the way it looked and made it sharp and kind of made the sales proposition of it. And then we went to all these clubs and we're like, hey, I know you do that, but you got to pay labor. It's always inconsistent, blah, blah. If we made a bottle that looked better than that cost you 10 cents more a shot, would you buy it off us? And everyone was like, yep. So that was like how it started.
Beautiful, yeah. Just quickly, is this your partner that you're talking about? Is that Shane you're speaking of?
So no? Shane Barrington, he came in later. So he owned a company called Tipple, which was like a big straight to you Uber Eats of alcohol.
Yep.
And that's why he came in because after we'd kind of blown this up with me and the 3 club guys, I was like, cool. We kind of like had a bit of scale in bottle shops and shit, but we didn't understand that world.
Yeah.
And he'd been working in that world for like 15, 16 years. So I was like,
so bring in the vet.
I was like, Shano, come fucking help us out.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Can you imagine like after one of those ones that came so close and you just failed, if you just like, no, that's it. I give up. I'm just gonna,
and a lot of people do, man.
Pack it in.
Yeah, a lot of people. Sorry,
no, that next one is the one that actually tips
so what
over.
got me from surprise was that this one was out of nowhere. So we like literally built it. I was like, cool, focusing on the events and stuff, and it was like bang. And I was like, fuck. Just grabbed it by the neck and just strangled it.
Yeah,
it was like, it was crazy. So that's another thing too. Is like people like get down, they work hard, they do whatever, but it's like you never know when opportunity is going to come knocking. Yeah,
exactly right.
So you've got to be in a sense right place, right time. So it's like what I was saying before. It's like I'm in the studios, I'm in the events. I'm driving 3 hours out to a festival to pop in for half an hour to show my face. Yeah, like I'm doing all this shit and I still continue to do it because that having my face out there means that I'm closer to that opportunity. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so and that opportunity might knock, and you never know. Like I could be in the fucking at a small pub in Sydney. And I bump into the guy from Sony because I'm sitting with some other dude, and then he wants to listen to what I've got working on. And bang, everything just changes my life. Yeah. So put yourself out there.
It really can happen that quick.
It does happen.
Yeah.
It's not can, it does.
Yeah. Exactly right. Another question I have on the wet pussy shot, right, is when you guys actually, firstly, I know you said that you didn't, it was a side project and you didn't expect it to blow, but I got to be honest with you, man. I really am not surprised. Hey, like because of the fact, as you said, it was all around Australia and stuff. I remember when I first seen the bottle and we first had it and we were looking at it and stuff. I remember thinking, fuck, this motherfucker is smart, bro.
Yeah.
Because man, as you said, it's a drink that everyone knows that we drink all around Australia. Everyone knows what wet pussy shot is, but it was always a drink. It was never a brand. You came along and you saw a market that was lacking and turned it into a brand.
Yeah.
And that's the smartest thing I could think of. So I'm really not surprised that it boosted.
Same now, but hindsight's 2020, right?
Yeah. So true.
Yeah. 100%. And so on that as well, man, do you, just quickly as well, is that sort of what made you, motivated you to want to put more ventures into the alcohol industry? Because I know you've got G Up now in partnership with Troy Candy. I've just seen you've been doing a lot for your new drink, Ugly Vodka. Ugly Vodka, yeah. Is that what you went to?
Pitch for, yeah.
Yeah. So just sort of talk on that a little bit, man, and sort of what sort of made you say yes to, I guess, those other opportunities in the alcohol industry?
I didn't say yes, I found them.
Oh, you found them?
Yeah, so Troy and I had known each other for years and years, again, just a roundabout.
Yeah.
And then I knew that he'd been kind of talking about doing this drink for a long time. And then he was already kind of down the track. And then he hit me up one day and was like, oh, can I ask you a question? And like, that was not out of the normal because I spoke to him a bit.
Yeah.
And then I was like, yeah. Like, he asked me the question. And then I was like, bro, why don't you do it with us? And he was like, all right. So that's how it sort of started. So then we kind of developed that brand for him, and we turned his dream into a reality, basically, right?
Yeah.
And then the other one was the same thing. So again, my business partner was like, I can get these apples from Shepparton. They throw them away normally. But at the time, he's like, I think it'd be a cool concept to use these fucking use fruit to make vodka.
Right.
And then I was like, yeah, I reckon there's more to this. I reckon, you know what? I reckon that we could find a group of guys that really give a fuck about all that social change, environment, working in the music industry, because that's a big thing, right? And then develop this story about like how we are helping local farmers. We were doing all these things, but I sort of took those sales propositions and I was like, all these things that you want to do because you think it's cool, there's actually all these benefits to it.
Yeah.
Let's pick those benefits out. Let's sell those benefits to a company that really cares about it, which is this company called Untitled. So they do like Beyond the Valley, Pitch Music Festival.
Oh, yep.
And again, I used to work with those guys back in the day in clubs.
Yep.
And then I kind of went to them and I was like, hey, we got this really cool concept. We're going to turn like throwaway fruit into vodka. It's going to help farmers, carbon neutral. It helps fucking all these different things like water waste, blah, blah, blah. We know you guys care about that. We know you're the guys that like are at the forefront of like that kind of music style and like what succumbs like fully encompasses that. You make a brand for us.
Yeah.
And so, and then we'll JV on it. So we were like, you develop something that you're proud of and that you think talks to your audience, which is the one that's going to care about this with this concept. And then they did that and created it. So that was my role. And there's a bunch of other shit you'll see roll out in the next year. But they're very much like majority of them is like, it's BDM. So like BDM stands for like business development manager.
Yep.
So I sort of like will come up with an idea and then I figure out who the partner should be. And we sort of, well, I shouldn't say me and my business partners come up with an idea. We kind of like go back and forth and create these opportunities. And then we sort of continue to develop that business. And then to a point that we kind of get partners and we create things and then with the marketing plans and rah. But the term is BDM. So it's like I do a lot of like conceptual marketing, come up with ideas and then figure out who needs to be a part of those ideas to make the idea work.
Right. So it's kind of a well-oiled machine in terms of your gear does this and focuses on that, which spins that gear, which focuses right. Cool.
Creating teams really, man.
Yeah.
It's like we just create teams for products. And it goes back to what I was saying before. Like I work in so many different cultures and different businesses and shit that I'm able to go look at it from an outside perspective in. Yeah. And so like I can go, oh, you know what? This product would work with these guys because it talks to them. This product will work with these guys because it talks to them. This product will work with these guys because it talks to them. Again, if I wasn't constantly at fucking Pitch Music, then the Brotherhood show at Laundry, then after that I'm at fucking Riva watching some other artist play. It's like if I wasn't doing that all the time, I wouldn't be able to watch these people engage with brands and alcohol and blah, 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 blah to be able to like make those decisions. That makes sense.
100%. 100. That's crazy, man. I didn't realize how sort of in depth it really went. Like it's honestly like a movie. I can just picture like, I think is it Bad Boss where that I can't remember what actor it is, but and they've turned it into a lot of memes. But he's sort of explaining a plan. He's by a whiteboard. He's got his suit and tie on. Hasn't slept in 3 days and shit. Sort of picturing those sort of things when you kind of are looking for business partners and stuff like oh, this is gonna go here and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Like that, eh?
Yeah, literally. When you're explaining
There's a lot of whiteboard action.
Yeah. Where did the name Ugly Vodka came from as well? I found that, so I didn't realize that's what you were doing with it and stuff. It was reusing fruit into vodka and stuff. So I want to know a little bit more about that. But
so the boys from Untitled come up with it. So they we originally was called Weekend Drinks or Weekend Vodka, which we just like to ring to it. Yeah, and like all the whole like alcohol weekend synonymous with like fucking partying.
Yep.
The guys are a party group, rah. And then they were like kind of developed it, and then they were like, you know what, we're gonna do something like this that's like pretty out there. Like no one's ever done it. Become the first sustainable vodka, use all the fruit to turn into blah 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 blah. We want to be like real bold, and they're like, so the actual term for that fruit that's thrown away is called ugly fruit.
Ugly fruit.
So they were like, fuck it. They're like, fuck it.
I was thinking it was something to do with the fruit.
Yeah. So the term is ugly fruit or wonky fruit. So they were like, all right, let's lean into the worst word, which is ugly.
Yeah.
So you're not going to forget that, right? So it's like when someone goes, oh, it's ugly vodka, you remember it forever. Why is it ugly vodka?
What's ugly about vodka? Yeah, 100%.
And then you figure it out. So for a credit to those boys, but they were the ones that were the masterminds behind that. And it was like the idea was like make ugly beautiful. Like that was the idea.
That's awesome. Major marketing.
That's such good marketing.
Yeah, that's cool. Man. So just not to sort of go to the music and then to vodka back to music.
That's cool, bro.
But so I wanted to know your play in the label part of things, man. So I know obviously you have a big association with Teamwork and Brotherhood and stuff. I know Brotherhood is Melbourne's label that he's off branched from Teamwork, correct?
Correct.
What part do you play in Teamwork?
So I used to own labels, obviously, and then back then I ran the whole ship. So I have a pretty good idea of how to do it.
Yep.
Prior to that, I used to work for a techno label called Bush, and I was an A&R. So A&R means that you're finding artists, and then you're doing the deal for the label, or with the label. You're kind of like a mediator. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So I'd find an artist, and then I would be like, I would put them in contact with the label. If I thought they were good, then the label and them would do the deal. So I would not be involved in that.
Yep.
But I'd be finding them, and then at the time I would get like a small cut of royalty. That makes sense for putting the relationship together. But I was hired by the label to do that.
Yeah.
So those same boys, the teamwork guys, like I'd known them for years and years and years and years. And I feel like I had a pretty trusted ear because I found a lot of artists, or like I said before, I guess I might not have worked with them, but I was booking them, or I was I'd worked as an A&R for them, and like I had a long list. Like if I managed 10 guys that got really big, I'd fucking worked with 30 that that end up having illustrious careers after I'd worked with them early on. That makes sense. So
100%.
my ear was very trusted, and the boys kind of came to me and were like, "Hey, you interested in like kind of working with us and finding artists and stuff because you seem to be really good at finding them at the ground level." Because I'm like fucking, as I said to you before, I'm watching people flat out, but I'm like, I'm on SoundCloud, bro. Like, so when I go through my binges, and
you're
I'm
really
like,
going that deep into it, man.
I'll sit there and be like, listen to one artist, to another artist, to another artist. I'll spend hours. When I was younger, I literally would have headphones on for hours and hours and hours, just digging, like trying to find gold, right?
Yeah.
And so he knew that I was like that, and I was constantly sort of sending him shit. Funnily enough, what Corey actually made it happen was this hip hop shit. So there was a guy called TKO. Do you remember him? TKO.
Of course. Yep.
And like Kid Curvey and shit like that.
Yeah,
so
of course. Yeah. All them boys.
Real early before any of them had blown up. Obviously, Curves had been around forever. And I was like listening to some of that shit, and it was like using the Aussie accent. It was real like gutter rap in a sense.
Yeah.
And I'd sent it to the boys from Teamwork, and this is before there was across it at all. And I was like, I reckon this shit's going to blow up. And they're like, fuck, you've been right 3 times. Like, you've been,
three for three at this point.
Well, no, sorry, 2. You've been right 2 times before. So they're like, oh, well, like, why don't you come on and start to look for some of this stuff? And I'm like, cool. So then I started to like slowly, and that's how I kind of inundated the hip hop scene, was I started to like look and watch. And this is before 1-4. That makes sense. So I was already on this shit before 1-4 blew up. And it was
so
probably
would you say, so not to cut you off, but would you say this is around the time where Oz hip hop is kind of becoming
bubbling? It was
Oz hip hop. Yeah.
And I could see it. I could see the signs. Like I was like watching the views get bigger. So they went from 10 to they were getting 100, 200,000 views. Yeah. And like there was some audience who were like really feeling it. I was like, I'd seen it before. So everything is the same before. It's like, it's all the same. So it's like when something bubbles, they start to be a lot of reactions. People don't like it. There's conversation about it. All this different shit. So I was watching it and I was like, no offense to those dudes, like they're good rappers, whatever. But I was like, it's not it, but it's almost there.
Yeah.
And then I was like watching. And then like everybody else, the message went boom, like the 141. And I was like, fucking knew it. Like I was like kind of, the boys already started working with them then. And then at that point I started to work with artists and grab people, whatever. Like, but not just that genre, like that kind of, I guess like the Polynesian rap stuff. I was like, this is going to blow up everything. And then I sort of started to grab people. But unfortunately I grabbed a lot of different, not necessarily a lot of guys, but I grabbed a couple. And so, like I said before, some of them were like not manageable or weren't interested enough or whatever. And I watched that space, but it was really challenging, man. Like working in the hip hop thing was a fucking another ball game.
Yeah.
One, because they try to fucking stab and shoot each other.
Right.
But second,
a little bit different to the house scene.
I never had to worry about like gun threats when I was fucking managing house DJs. But second to that was that they don't have any form of trust. So like, and the funny thing for me is that I am a dude that came from fucking nowhere. Yeah. And like, but again, like I'm this guy that has developed and I've got all these good contacts and I have money. So that automatically these guys are like, what's this fucking white dude want? Yeah. And like, I don't trust this guy. Like what are you doing? Like that, I was such a hard thing to like build trust with these rap artists. Yeah. And you're not going to walk in and go, bro, I grew up in commission areas too. And my mum was single and my parents died from drug overdoses and blah, blah, blah. Like that sounds fake. So I had to like build these relationships and this trust, and that took a long time. So I was like, I had to build up, create kind of start to go to studio sessions and float around and go to shows. And then they had to kind of figure that, like I said before, if you tell someone something, they don't believe you. So they had to kind of figure that story out themselves. It was super challenging. It was fun too, but it was super challenging. But I sort of slowly got a couple of dudes, and I was like I guess hip hop ground artist, like kind of watching culture in a sense and sort of feeding up to Teamwork, but as an A&R. And then I signed a bunch of guys, most notably obviously Melbourne. But, and then Melbourne sort of had that brotherhood thing forever. And he was like, look, I want to take this more serious. And then I did a deal with Teamwork and it kind of helped him too. But I was like, I did a deal with them saying like, hey, look, rather than us running our shit through you guys, which makes not a lot of sense because you do all kinds of artists. Yeah. Why don't you have an arm that does this? But Melbourne is definitely the he's the boss. Like kind of like I run it, but he's the boss of it. So he decides who gets on.
Final
who
call
doesn't get
sort
on.
of.
Kind of like.
Yeah.
So that's why there's not fucking 200 artists on it. There's like
Yeah.
3, yeah.
Yeah.
If it was me running that, we'd have 15, 20, 30 artists on it. Yeah. And so because I'm real big on like find some guys, let them go, help develop them.
And the more the better in that
Yeah, and
case.
then like you might
Yeah.
get 5 good ones. Yeah. And like
Yeah.
the other ones sort of fall off, and then you because that's how I've done it in the past. But Ronnie's very much like everything's got to be perfect.
Yeah, you can tell, man. And I mean, I won't speak too much on him yet because I mean, hopefully we have him on at some point. But you can really tell how much of a perfectionist that dude really
he's
is.
fucking
Hey,
hectic.
like when it come down to I went to the first sold out show he did at Laundry Bar. Was it last year, the year before? And just from it was all sort of scripted, like amazingly. I've been to a lot of shows at Laundry, like too many, and I've just never seen a show at Laundry though. You know what I mean? Like that
So
was.
you talk about it before, you're saying like what made me appeal to him.
Yeah.
So other than I thought he had a bit of talent, but him and everybody, was the first one I saw him perform. That was when I was like, this dude's fucking the real deal.
Yeah.
And I still believe, like, it sounds crazy to say, but he's got his ups and downs, ebbs and flows. Like he's obviously been in jail, come back out, tried it again. He's got family and shit. He's focus shifts. So sometimes he's like really music orientated, and when he's there, I'm there. Like I'm right next to him. I'm flying around the country with him. I'm in the studio sessions with him. But then sometimes he needs to take some him time. Yeah, and when it's his hid time, I let him do that. Because it's like it's he's driving the vehicle, and I'm there to help him when he wants to do it. Like at the same time, I don't want to. I'm. It's a relationship. I'm not his boss. If that makes sense. So,
Yeah.
But I generally still believe that he is the best hip hop entertainer in the country.
I couldn't disagree.
And I generally think that he has got the it factor, and same as everyone that I work with, same as Amul, same as Rockefeller, same as all those guys. But I generally believe that he could be, if he wanted to be, the best in the country.
Huge.
And I still believe that he is one of the best rappers in the country. Like that's what I do. And again, that's what I was saying before. It's like all my guys. Like I'm all fucking amazing singer.
Well, I suppose
all those
as you were saying, man, it makes sense. I suppose he wouldn't be in your corner, or none of the artists would be in your corner if you didn't believe they were the best artists in Australia.
And that's why when I get these people come to me and like, hey bro, like, would you work with us? I can't just be like, yeah, cool, because it's not a money motivator for me. Yeah, and like, so when they're like, yeah, bro, like I think your stuff's good, and I'm not lying, but I've got to be super passionate because I've got to be like, I've got to be at war with I'm sitting there at the table like, bro, you got to book this guy. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
I'm like, this guy, you're missing out by not doing this. Like,
and you got to make sure.
And that's why I think that I'm trusted in the music industry, because when I say that, they know that I'm like, I believe it.
They know you're going to go to bat for him every time.
And then I'll make sure it's going to happen. I'll
100%.
make sure they rock up. I make sure the show's good. I make sure that this is there. So they know that they trust me, so that they trust for whatever. So it's like, and if I'm sort of there like, oh yeah, I'm working with the guy, he could be good. It's like, if I'm not like fully fucking obsessed with it, then why should these people believe me?
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. Like, I feel like sometimes guys are like, fuck, man. Like, I messaged him. He sort of, like, not fuck me around, but says, oh, yeah, like, I like your stuff, rah, but it doesn't go anywhere. And for me, it's like, just keep doing what you're doing and let me watch you, and then I'll decide if that makes a decision down the track. Like,
100%.
And once I'm on with you, I'm on with you. Yeah. Like, I'm like, ride to die. Like,
so it's like when people are always saying that artists that are getting very, because you'd know, man, artists are very antsy, you know what I mean? And when people tell artists who sort of aren't making any noise at all yet, you know, your time's coming, it's sort of a thing that's in one ear out the other. But it's for any artist listening now, man, like it's a real thing that your time really is coming. You are being watched.
Everybody's time is coming if they put the work in.
Exactly right. Anyway, man, I think we might leave it there just because we have another set of people coming in 5 minutes. But just quickly before we finish up, so obviously we do have our host here. We've got myself and Donny, and our third host has been getting tattooed all day. He's E12, but so we've got Liam B here, bro. I just want to come get you on camera real quick, bro, just to say g'day, because he hasn't been here through the episode. But Liam will be with us through all the other episodes and whatnot, bro. Come in, lad. Eshay. Yeah. So yeah, Liam will be in it for the rest of the episodes and stuff. He just was getting tattooed and stuff today. But Danny, thank you so much for coming, bro. I appreciate you so much, man. Is there anything that you wanted to bring attention to before we finish off? Or
my one, just chase your dreams. Like, even if someone says it's not true, just keep doing it.
100%.
And like, worst case scenario, don't fucking lose your life. Like, still work, still do things, do whatever. But it's like, you can't lose, man. Like, worst case scenario, if everything falls over, you had the best time ever.
Facts. Yeah.
So even me, man, like the level I'm at, it's like I say to Ronnie all the time, like, even all the boys I work with, I'm like, if this ends tomorrow, fuck, how good's this been? Yeah, insane.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Yeah, bloody that's the best way to look at it.
Just remember, artist, Danny Grant is watching you.
100%. 100%. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching the first episode of the Culture Show with Danny Grant. Take it easy, fam. Peace.